You're invited to the amazing Foot Locker Back to School sale. Every shoe in the store, all the big names on sale now. All women's cross trainers, $20 off. Men's basketball shoes, $20 off. Men's cross trainers, $30 off. Reebok AXT pumps, $30 off. Foot Locker, every shoe in the store is on sale now.
Nike Air Jordans for kids, $30 off. Nike Air Jordans for men, $40 off.
Foot Locker, where it all begins.
It's Kids Week at McDonald's. Hi, I'm Laurie Mustard for CKND McDonald's Community News to let you know that this is a very special week at McDonald's. Visit any McDonald's in Manitoba now through Saturday for lots of fun and find out how you can give Ronald a hand to raise money for children's charities. In fact, if I was 12 or under, I'd even just come in for the free cookies.
Cats, back with the magic, the music, the mystery, and the memory. Cats, ready to lift you out of your seat and right through the roof. So let the memory live again. Cats, got your tickets?
The Winnipeg Free Press, supporting the arts in America, presents Cats. Opening August 27th at Centennial Concert Hall from Night Out Entertainment and Concert Productions International.
Mrs. Brady, how long have you been with the mob?
What?
Come. Lesser members of your family refer to you as their godmother, and how else could she know about the incredible deals on Diet Coke?
Mr. Smedley at the corner store told me about the deals on Diet Coke.
Oh, sure he did. Why do you do it, Mrs. Brady?
Actually, just for the taste of it.
Guilty. These are hard times, Mrs. Brady, especially in a quarry.
Sportsline is Manitoba's only half-hour daily sports show.
And it starts Tuesday, September 3rd at 11 o'clock.
Ten seconds to live. Stand by. In 3, 2, 1, go.
Kenora is tired of waiting. Because of the potential for 170 jobs, CKND First News has learned the town's council has endorsed a plan to build a gold mine on Shoal Lake. However, the move hinges on an environmental review. As Mark Miller reports, opponents warn the development could jeopardize Winnipeg's water supply and Kenora's tourist trade.
Winnipeggers spend millions of dollars in the Kenora area every year. This is cottage country, a second home for some Manitobans. The decision by Kenora Council to endorse a mine on the source of Winnipeg's drinking water, Shoal Lake, has people in our city, people like Councillor Terry Duguid, feeling betrayed.
Perhaps a mine site on the shores of Shoal Lake may detract from the reputation, the pristine reputation that area of the country has.
But more importantly, opponents fear a mine could contaminate Winnipeg's drinking water. The Stevens Island project has been in place since the early 1900s. Never has it seen production, only exploration. Below the lake, there are 13 kilometers of test tunnels. The town of Kenora and its neighbor, the municipality of Jeffrey Malik, stand to gain 170 jobs plus spin-offs if the mine is allowed to open. They are tired of waiting.
We can't hide under the skirt of environment. It's either safe or it isn't. And to start throwing in different yardsticks once they're scared that it might meet it, that doesn't help the situation. It's all one-sided.
So with opponents fearing Winnipeg's water could be jeopardized, they are also warning of a Manitoba tourism backlash. They will try and lobby Kenora to reconsider their decision.
If I was sitting in Kenora, I'd wonder as to how much support we want to give back to Winnipeg when Winnipeg is giving them a lot of support.
We appreciate the economic benefit of the tourist trade, and that's why we've kept a low profile to now. But I think they also got to realize the other economic benefits to the area.
The mayor of Kenora stresses if the project isn't safe, it won't receive approval through the environmental assessment process. Opponents simply say mining and drinking water don't mix. Mark Miller, CKND First News.
As fall draws closer, harvest is going into full swing, and along with it, Winnipeg Harvest, the city's food bank. Demand for its help has been growing steadily, and as Eileen O'Donnell reports, Winnipeg residents are answering the call.
Winnipeg Harvest, can I help you? For years, people have been calling on Winnipeg Harvest to help meet the needs of the hungry. Lately, more and more have been calling the food bank, and while demand for their service is on the increase, the supply isn't keeping pace.
It's been a tough summer and a tough year for a lot of people. Not just because of recession issues, but some families have been in recession for many, many, many years. It's not just a nouveau thing.
Winnipeg Harvest's Grow a Row program is starting to bear its fruits and vegetables. Extra garden produce, especially root crops, can be dropped off at their offices to be sent out to the city's hungry.
Potatoes, onions, carrots, beets, that kind of product that stores well for several months that we can use in November, December, January, February.
Winnipeg Harvest can't grow everything they need, though, and right now the item they need most is baby food.
The demand has increased so much all over the place. It's just when we've been getting product donated to us, there's been very little baby food donated. And we're finding now, and I think the reserves are gone, so we're realizing that that portion of reserve we need to replenish again.
They're trying to make it as easy as possible for people to help them out. They've set up drop-off bins for non-perishable goods at Safeway stores across the city, as well as at the Bomber games, including tonight's game against Calgary. Eileen O'Donnell, CKND First News.
A struggling artist who has pledged to barricade himself in his studio when the landlord comes to evict him doesn't have to worry. The landlord says he will sit down and work something out with painter Robert Mears. But as Collin Friesen tells us, the incident has prompted questions over how well artists have fared during the recession.
One project would be more of this stuff with the symbols and things, and the others.
This studio has become painter Robert Mears' last stand. Almost a month behind in his rent, Mears is getting letters from the property management company demanding its $566.
Came up high.
The company, Sunridge, can now send in bailiffs to seize Mears' property if he doesn't pay up. Mears refuses to take a part-time job, and the 38-year-old artist has pledged to stay in his studio to make a point about how tough it is for artists to survive.
They're more right than I am. Technically, but I asked them for a bit of an extension.
And Mears isn't the only one suffering. This year, the province cut arts funding by $800,000. The recession has also taken its shots. Douglas Ingram is the chairman of a local arts lobby group.
The discretionary income that most people are having who would be interested in buying artwork is even less. You know, it's going more for the things that you need to keep your house going.
Arts groups want Revenue Canada to let artists defer taxes over a 5-year period to help keep them viable. There has been no response from Ottawa. As for Mears, his plan seems to have worked. A representative of Sunridge Management says they will call in the near future and work something out. But fixing the larger problems within the art community will require more than just a quick touch-up. Collin Friesen, CKND First News.
Well, archaeologists at the Forks Dig are thrilled about their latest discovery, human footprints that date back about 160 years. The find is the first of its kind in North America. Sid Croker has been an archaeologist for the last 20 years, but never has he discovered anything so unique as human footprints. They were found in a layer of sediment at the Forks site, along with hoof prints and buggy tracks. Croker says seeing the impressions for the first time was like taking a step back into history.
It gives you a sense of relationship, linkage with the past that you don't get by reading a document, looking at a painting or a photograph. You get to sense the presence of the people that were, as they're walking past. There's times when I'm standing between the cart tracks, I almost expect somebody to tap me on the shoulder and say, could you get out of the way, you're holding us up.
Croker says it's amazing how much you can learn about a person and the time period they lived in just by examining their footprints.
Well, we know that the person was wearing a moccasin because there's no heel impression which would indicate a boot. There's no toe marks, so they weren't barefoot. It's small. It's about, I would say, a man's size 6, which could be standard size for shoes in that day. I really don't know yet.
Croker has 2 theories about how the footprints came to be. The first has the person moving to higher ground with all his possessions to escape the flood of 1826. The second has the person traveling on a simple cart trail en route to a trading post with his cattle and horses. Neither theory, Croker says, can be proven.
Maybe it's the romantic in me. I like to think of it being the latter case where they're trying to outrun the floodwaters, but it could very well just be normal, everyday commerce.
Plaster casts of the impressions will become part of the Canadian Park Service collection. The final communique from the Premier's conference repeats calls for a meeting with Ottawa on the economy. It also describes at some length promising signs on the Aboriginal and constitutional fronts. But as Paul Taylor reports, critics here at home are questioning the meeting's value.
Ottawa bashing has become the stock in trade of Premier's conferences over the last 32 years. Protesters' placards reflected in angry speeches from provincial leaders about cuts in transfer payments for health care and education. Premiers floated trial balloons about possible constitutional solutions. Gary Filmon's backing of a constituent assembly surprised critics at home who say he has broken faith with Manitobans.
I think it's about time they realize that one of the reasons why we had such a strong position on the Constitution last year was because the three of us stuck together and we were very faithful to the report presented by the task force who had spoken with many, many Manitobans.
The First Ministers also met with hand-picked Aboriginal leaders who didn't win any immediate converts to the notion of native self-government. Manitoba New Democrats say the fault lies with the premiers.
We've gone hundreds of years without resolving our relationship with Canada's First Peoples, and I think it's absolutely essential to resolve it.
The meeting with Aboriginal leaders itself was a first and only for a premiers conference, and a direct response to an ugly scene outside last year's premiers conference when a Native delegation was refused a meeting on their constitutional concerns. That was when Gary Filmon was on the hustings. This year, 3 other premiers have an election in their immediate future. Critics say campaigning reduces these meetings to photo opportunities, leaving important business undone.
Everybody speaks softly and nobody carries a big stick, and sometimes it's necessary for the premiers to get there and actually carry that big stick in order to make things happen.
The conference came as prairie farmers began pulling off a record yield at record low prices. Yet Western premiers remained mum on the crisis in agriculture.
I just can't understand how we're talking about whether it's going to be how many angels are on the tip of a needle on a constituent assembly and not talk about the agricultural crisis.
The premier returns from Whistler late Thursday. Paul Taylor, CKND First News.
As the premier's conference broke up after 2 days, Manitoba Premier Gary Filmon went cautiously on side with the idea of including Native people in future meetings. Filmon says he has no objection to the presence of Native people at future conferences, but hedged his comments somewhat.
As I've indicated, I believe that our Aboriginal people should be involved in conferences that affect them and deal with issues of concern to them. And I think that that's a matter that ought to be pursued. And I think that obviously that's up to each individual conference, that where there are issues that concern Aboriginals, they should be at the table.
Still no lead on when Winnipeg will be hit with the rotating strike by postal workers. Winnipeg Cup W President George Floresco says there will be no more than a 2-hour notice prior to a walkout. Meanwhile, it turned ugly on a number of picket lines today, as Jacques Brabeau reports from Ottawa.
Hey, dummy!
The talks resumed as 25,000 postal workers remained off the job. In Hull, Quebec, pickets tried to stop a mail truck from entering a postal terminal. One man was arrested after police confiscated a crowbar. Picket leaders say the trucks have another purpose besides moving the mail.
Nobody's inside to sort it, so it'll stay there all night, and probably will be inside tomorrow. So it's only the thing there. It's only for teasing us.
Some of the worst violence was in Montreal, where postal workers have declared themselves on a general strike. Last night, a temporary mail sorting facility in an unmarked warehouse was torn apart by vandals. And in Ottawa, more than 2,000 postal workers returned to work after a 3-day strike. They say very little mail has moved during their absence.
There were all kinds of mail left here today that never got out. And some of it is dated back as far as the 21st or the 22nd of August.
2 weeks ago, a conciliator described these postal negotiations as a dialogue of the deaf. And with Canada Post refusing to even discuss job creation, while Cup W insists the issue must remain on the bargaining table, it's obvious very little has changed. Jacques Brabeau, Global News, Ottawa.
Still on the labor front, striking workers at Supercrete concrete manufacturers will be joined at midnight by workers at Building Products, another concrete manufacturer in the city. The two companies are owned by Lafarge Canada and CBR Cement Canada. Meanwhile, NABET union members have voted 97% in favor of strike action at CKND. About 2/3 of the station's employees hold unionized positions. In money matters, the New York stock market retreated today, closing down 13.2 points. And in Toronto, the TSE 300 was down 14.3 points. Gold closed in London at $404.44 Canadian, while the Canadian dollar gained 16/100ths of a cent U.S.
Are you tired